all of you are also modeling what it means to be an attorney general, because we've got an attorney general of the United States who literally thinks her job is to be the president's lawyer and to do whatever the president wants her to do, and thinks that the Department of Justice is the law firm for the president and his political party. I mean, that's a remarkable deformation and diversion of American history.
That moment wasn't just a political failure. It was a total collapse of leadership. Think back to January 6th. A mob storms the Capitol, chaos everywhere, and Trump, he's sitting back, saying nothing. No National Guard, no calls for calm, just silence. Then today, he flips the script and calls DC a crime capital, even though the city's safer than it's been in decades. The real crisis isn't crime. It's politicians treating fear as a campaign strategy. But here's the kicker. When leaders choose spin over truth, what does that do to democracy? Now, watch what the lawmakers had to say in response.
Thanks, Senator Schumer. We're going to start with questions with Congressman Raskin.
Thank you very much, Senator Durbin and Senator Schumer. Thanks for joining us and for your powerful leadership on behalf of the rule of law and the Constitution in New York and all over the country. Your citation of Senator Warnock reminds me of something that Ben Franklin said, where he said, I've observed that wrong is always growing more wrong until there's no bearing it anymore, but that right, however opposed, comes right at last. And so
Warnock paraphrased Benjamin Franklin.
Well, they were thinking along parallel lines, undoubtedly.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you for joining us. I want to recognize my Democratic colleagues who've joined us today. Hank Johnson from Georgia, Ted Lieu from California, Deborah Ross from North Carolina, Chuy Garcia from Illinois, Mary Gay Scanlon from Pennsylvania, and Becca Ballin from Vermont. So I just have a couple of questions for you guys. One is I want to say that when, pursuant to Senator Warnock and Ben Franklin, we get through this nightmare, and we will, and when we reclaim the trajectory of American history for democracy and freedom, and we will, all of you will be remembered by future generations for what you did to stand up for us during this time. And I don't want you to think that anybody doesn't notice, because we do notice what it is you're doing. But I want to ask you this, because in addition to the substantive defense of the rule of law and the Constitution you're engaged in, all of you are also modeling what it means to be an attorney general, because we've got an attorney general of the United States who literally thinks her job is to be the president's lawyer and to do whatever the president wants her to do, and thinks that the Department of Justice is the law firm for the president and his political party. I mean, that's a remarkable deformation and diversion of American history. So although it's indisputable that all of you are Democrats, I don't think you are here to represent the Democrats or the Democratic Party of your state. And I just wonder if you would say a word about what it means to you to be an attorney general and to try to act on behalf of the rule of law and not a political program. Perhaps Attorney General Rowell, if you'd start.
Thank you for that question. I serve as the Attorney General of the state of Illinois, and in Illinois, I am independently elected from the governor, and by way of that, I serve the rule of law. I don't serve the governor. I do represent the governor. I represent the agencies within state, but I serve the rule of law, and I take that distinction very seriously, and I think that the U.S. Attorney General should operate with the same sort of, she shouldn't be loyal to the president, but she should be loyal to the rule of law. That does not mean you're not representing the government and the administration, but you have to do so within the bounds of the rule of law, and we take that very seriously.
Is there any one of you who would describe your job as being the governor's lawyer? Exclusively, and anyway, okay. So I don't know if anybody wanted to add anything else on this. Yes, Attorney General Campbell.
I'll just add, similar in Massachusetts, elected by the people, and I'm accountable to the people in upholding the rule of law and protecting their rights and protecting our state's economy. I would just stress, and I think the NIH case, which we were all a part of, whether it's the first case or even the second iteration of that case, to protect access to these critical life-saving medical research, clinical trials. This is billions of dollars that go to every state in the country. We came together not looking at, okay, how do we just protect those who are Democrats or identify as Democrats in this country? We came together recognizing the unlawful actions by this administration to cut that funding in NIH-1 quickly on a Friday night and mobilized to show up in court on Monday because we knew what was at stake. When you talk about a child having pediatric cancer or a vet dealing with PTSD, we don't look at whether or not they have a D or an R by their names. We mobilize to advance that litigation to protect the public health, not even only of those folks in our state, but to protect the public health of everyone across this country while at the same time upholding the rule of law. And I think it's just a great example of a great example of how we do our work regardless of political affiliation or even demographic.
Well, thank you for doing that. And Ellison and Plotkin, let me just twist the question a little bit. One of the things you guys are doing is defending the integrity of federal laws and programs that we've adopted. And because of the very restrictive standing rules that the court has imposed against Congress going to court to try to get our laws implemented, in a weird way, you're standing up for the laws that we've participated in passing. But that's for all of the people, because after all, it's your representatives in Congress who voted for them as well. But I wonder if you could just reflect a little bit on that role you're playing in terms of making federal law work for everybody in the country as a state attorney general.
Chairman Raskin, we regard the laws that Congress passes as fundamentally the prerogative of the people who populate this country and send members to Congress. And so for an executive to usurp the role of Congress in appropriations or establishment of agencies or anything like that, we view as an outrageous overreach that simply cannot be tolerated. As I noted in my comments, the things that the president is trying to do, you probably can do if you follow the rules, but you cannot do it vis-a-vis executive order or edict or proclamation or this is how I feel this morning. The fact is that there are procedures that they can follow. They got to go to Congress. You want to abolish the Department of Education, as horrible of an idea as I believe that is, you have to go through Congress to do that. So he's not only doing things that I think are harmful to the American people, he's doing them in a way that is harmful to our system of justice and democracy.
Great. And then finally, forgive me.
I was just going to note, Representative Raskin, that what you said at the start of this is the core of many of the lawsuits we filed. Article 1 gives this body the broadest powers, particularly when it comes to passing laws, spending money. And a bulk of the cases we have talked about and have brought have been the president. When we say he can't act like a king, it means he can't take actions that you have done and put into law, signed into law by a president, passed by a Congress, and decide on a whim that he wants to, say, convert a Department of Transportation highway program into an immigration enforcement program. That is not what the Constitution allows. And so our lawsuits have been about standing up in many ways for the authority of this body to do the important work.
It's almost funny if it weren't so serious. You just heard these attorneys general describe their job, to protect the law, not to play defense lawyer for whoever's in power. But the bigger picture? When presidents try to rule like kings, it's not just reckless. It's a direct hit on the Constitution. And every time someone bends the rules, it chips away at trust in the system. Here's the question. Do you think our leaders even care about the rule of law anymore? Or is it all just a game of power? While Trump keeps yelling about graffiti and crime in DC, the real story is being buried, literally. Remember those Epstein files Trump promised to release? Suddenly, they vanish into a locked cabinet. The infamous client list? Magically declared non-existent. And then, Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted of trafficking kids, gets moved from a prison to what looks more like a retreat. Cozy timing, right after a closed-door meeting with Trump's former defense lawyer. You don't need a tinfoil hat to see the pattern. Promise transparency, slam the door shut. Then distract the public with scary just a system bending itself in knots to shield the powerful. And while Trump's allies scramble to spin the narrative, cracks are showing. Even his diehard fans are noticing something stinks. Here's the part nobody wants to admit. If those files ever see daylight, it's not just Trump who could fall. It's a whole web of elite names with everything to lose. That's why every distraction, every lie, every legal trick gets thrown at the wall. Not to serve justice, but to keep the truth buried. So let me ask you, do you buy the official story? Or do you think we're watching the biggest cover-up of our time? Because if the powerful can erase accountability this easily, what does that mean for the rest of us? Thanks for watching. If you found this eye-opening, hit subscribe so we can keep digging into the stories they'd rather you forget.